G'day guys and welcome back to AdosTheGreat YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video we've got something a little bit different. I've headed over to TikTok, posted up a video asking you guys to send us questions. And today I am joined by two of my best mates, Jordan and Trent. Welcome boys, how are yous?
Yeah, good mate, good. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm not bad mate, I'm not bad. Trent, how are you?
Oh, wonderful, mate, wonderful.
That's good.
Ready for the NRL finals, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, as most of you guys would know, Jordan has been on my channel before. We did a reaction to Mercules, but it's actually Trent's first time on the channel. So, thank you for joining us today, Trent.
Yeah, my debut, eh?
Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I've picked 10 questions that you guys have asked on TikTok. There was a lot of questions on there. Some have already been answered, like, will the Dragons beat the Broncos? So unfortunately, we can't answer that one because it's already been answered. But let's jump straight in and start off with Connor Bedell, who says, who is your favourite player of all time? Jordan, let's start off with you.
Favorite player of all time. Yeah, well, first player that comes to my mind is Greg Inglis. Of all time, just he had that aggressive nature about him. He was physically strong. He was fast. You know, he never really got into a scrap. Not that I saw anyway. You know, so to me that seems he's like pretty humble. But in saying that, a very close second for me is Josh Addo-Carr from the Raiders. He's the sort of bloke, in my mind, that'll never give up on a play. And we've seen that with, his chase down of Jamal Fogarty ages ago. Like, holy shit, a big front rower chasing down a small little halfback, and he got him. So, GI for me is, of all time, but nipping at his heels, definitely is Josh Addo-Carr. Trent, who's yours?
Oh, mine's Matty Bowen. Yeah, I used to love Matty Bowen back in the day. When he played for the Cowboys, yeah, Matty Bowen he just lighted up with Jonathan Thurston, but he's just so electrifying, and I always loved Matty Bowen. I always wanted him to play for Queensland and Australia and all that. I just thought it was, But probably, I really like Petro Semasiva. That's who I really like, Petro. So you get big running forward. No nonsense. Just fair but hard.
Yeah, no, that's. So for me, it's a Rabbitohs legend. Played all his games for the Rabbitohs. He's the most capped Rabbitoh in history, and that's Big Johnny Sutton. So I grew up, as most of you guys would know, was supporting the Rabbitohs as a young kid, and growing up watching a lot of John Sutton was amazing. He's just so great to see on the field. He was a hard worker. He got the nitty-gritty, tough stuff done. He was there when we won our premiership in 2014, and he's still with the club now as a trainer and mentor for the players. So yeah, I've got such a soft spot for Johnny Sutton. Definitely, by far, my favourite player of all time.
Yeah, right. Fuck, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Imagine a lot of Rabbitohs agree with you there too.
What's that?
I bet a lot of Rabbitoh supporters agree with you there.
Oh, look, there's going to be a lot that'll like old Bob McCarthy and Eric Sims and stuff like that. But, obviously I didn't grow up watching those players, obviously. But, look, I think John Sutton's he's loved by a lot of the Rabbitoh community.
Good old days, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you would have seen most of, the back end of his career anyway.
Oh, mate, I've practically watched his whole career.
Shit. Yeah, I suppose you've been doing a lot longer than we have.
Oh, yeah, no, I absolutely love Sado. But next question actually comes from not our Jordan, but another one. Will a 5 to 8 team, so a team outside the top 4, win the grand final this year?
Now, I sort of in conversation said it to you yesterday, Aiden, and I'm going to retract my statement if you can remember what I said to you yesterday.
Yep.
I said that the Roosters, in my mind, were the only chance of making it into, the grand final. And I think 100% without a chance, that is out of the question now.
Okay.
Who's that?
The Roosters.
No.
Well, in my mind, the biggest strike weapon in Joseph Manu has done a calf injury, and it's like a strain with a mild tear, which is usually 2 to 3 week turnaround, and they have a do or die game this week. Next week. So it's still, I would say they're probably the front runners outside the 8 to win the grand final. In saying that, if they win this week and Joey Manu can return, I guess, earlier than expected, then I dare say, they've got an 80% chance of winning it. I'm pretty confident in that. Otherwise, at the moment, their chances of winning it, in my mind, are something in like the 40 to 45% range. They might. They do have a lot of strike weapons, but for me, Joey Manu is the X factor that team has. So, what do you reckon, Trent?
I think you got 5th Storm, 6th Roosters, 7th Rabbitohs, 8th Raiders. If any of those teams on their day can really make a proper run, but probably at the moment with Manu out, probably Storm can make a run and win it. Yeah.
You're gonna say the Storm?
Yeah, Storm. If Manu's out, not the Roosters, but Rabbitohs possibly if they get it together. Yeah. But I'd say Storm.
Yeah, I mean, Rabbitohs on their day are dangerous.
Yeah, it's just on the day and how momentum goes,
and don't get me wrong, the Raiders too,
Yeah, could do it. Yeah.
Could do it. But yeah, just watching that Roosters Rabbitohs game, the other night, I just thought they should have been in the top 4 rather than in that 6th spot.
Who's at the Roosters?
Roosters, yeah. Who do you reckon, Aiden? What's your pick?
Well, I kind of tend to agree with Trent. I think basically any team outside of that top 4 in my mind can still win the grand final. I think, while it's tough on the Roosters losing Joey Manu, I think there's still every chance of getting there. Joey Manu is arguably their, I guess you could say most explosive player and pretty much can start something from nothing. But they've still got so much talent there. They're on a huge run at the moment. They've got players to cover that position. I know they're not going to be as explosive as Joey Manu, but you look at one of the most successful players over in the Super League last season was Oliver Gildart, and I reckon they'll probably slot him into that number 4 jersey. So. He scored 5 tries on his debut for the Roosters reserve grade squad, so he's definitely a good enough player to slot into that jersey. So they've got a lot of depth there, the Roosters. So I'd say outside of the top 4, they're still probably the best chance. I'd probably say Souths are probably the second best chance. I think if Souths are firing, if Souths come in with not so much a bad attitude, but they're not, nothing's clicking for them, then they're obviously not going to do it. But if they're coming out, Latrell, Cody, Cookie, Muzza, they're all, everything's clicking for those boys, then I'd say South definitely could do it. Storm and Raiders are sort of tied for me. I think, a lot would probably need to go their way, but I definitely think those two sides can pose a threat to the grand final. Probably slightly more favouring the Raiders because we've seen them go head-to-head and beat some of the best teams in the league this year. So I think, I still think my favourites outside of the top 4 to win it are the Roosters, but don't rule the other 3 out.
Yeah, well, there's not much points difference between, like you look at the second, third, fourth spot. It's only really Storm are only 2 points behind Eels, 4 points behind the Sharks at third. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, you just look at it like
only 2 or 3 wins, behind the top 4. Yeah,
no, you're right.
So what's the next question you got for us, Ad?
The next one is, and Jordan and I spoke a little bit about this yesterday, this one comes from Jason, and it's, is Latrell Mitchell a top 3 fullback in 2022?
I'll let you go first, Trent.
Look, he's had a year of injuries and all that. Look, you know what I mean? You could talk about top 3 and all that, but he's one of the top players in the game. So I think he is. Yeah. I think he is. He's just... Like, longitudinally he is, but, like, right now, at the moment, you know what I mean? He's still trying to build form and all that. Yeah. But, he's a player that can totally change a game, So I would say yes.
Yeah, I would, the short answer would be yes, he is a top 3. I would say he's that third spot, though. When you look at the league, you've got players like Dylan Edwards. I would rank Dylan Edwards above him. James Tedesco, would obviously be the number 1 fullback. He's the GOAT. Well, second in a lot of people's opinion of, greatest of all time fullbacks. So, 2022 season alone, he is top 3, but he is fighting for that third position, I think. Definitely. And what do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think in the, this season, I'd probably, with all the other injuries and stuff, as of right now, I'd say he's probably in the top 3 behind James Tedesco and Dylan Edwards. But if you look at, overall, take injuries out of it, I'd say he's probably 5th. I'd probably have, obviously, James Tedesco, Dylan Edwards, Tom Trbojevic, and Ryan Pappenhausen over him at the moment, if they were healthy. But, at the end of the day, you got to take into account, too, that Latrell's only played predominantly half a season. He's by far leading the league in line break assists. So, yeah, look, he's done a lot in a short period of time this season. So, like, I do think that he's at the very least a top 5 fullback in the comp.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I was thinking, right now as the league sits, with players being out, obviously, with injuries. But, if you were to say everyone in the league was fit and healthy, would be top 5. If he played the whole season, he's definitely up there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think Tom Trbojevic, in my opinion, when he's healthy, he's the best player, best fullback, yeah.
Ooh, controversial, Trent.
Yeah, it's not a bad point there, but I'm still going to stick. I think James Tedesco is the second best fullback of all time.
Well,
or of all time, if you want to open that can of worms, you've got Billy Slater, you got Greg Inglis. Like, does Teddy, I guess, slot above GI or?
Well, you've got to look at it like. Greg Inglis, for the most of his career, was a centre. He played a little bit of 5'8" and fullback, but predominantly was a centre, so that's sort of what he gets rated on. Yeah, look, he was a great fullback, but he didn't play there that much, whereas James Tedesco, his whole career, he's been at fullback. He gets picked above Turbo for state and country, so I just think not only is he a good fullback, but he's a good leader as well, which I think sort of makes him a little bit better than Turbo.
But that State of Origin series, not this year, but last year when they had the three, they said they had the three fullbacks sort of thing, with the Latrell, Mitchell, Trbojevic, Tedesco. Who played fullback again that time?
Tedesco.
Okay. Well,
so yeah. Well, you think you look at that Blues squad from I think it was last year. You had Latrell, Tommy, Tedesco, Clint Gutherson.
Yeah, Clint Gutherson. He's a great player.
You had 5 full fullbacks in your back line. Like, you can't tell me that is not a good squad, especially when you've got them 4 on the park at the same time.
Yeah, superstars.
Yeah. Okay. What's the next one, Aiden?
Next one is... this one comes from... I'm not going to say the name because I don't like swearing too much on my channel, but this one comes from F Off, and it is Josh Addo-Carr underrated this season?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he's been pretty good for the Dogs. Well, I'll admit I don't watch every Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs game, but I've seen a few. I've seen a number of games. I've seen his hard. I think he's been good. Like not what he was at the Storm, but like he's set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get you. I would say he's fairly rated. He's not overrated. He's not underrated. I think he, for the most part, is fairly rated. His biggest attribute has always been his speed.
Yeah.
He's not a defensive winger.
No.
His X factor is his speed. You kick the ball downfield in some open space purely just for Josh Addo-Carr to sprint through, pick it up, and potentially try. But him being around the Bulldogs with the squad that they don't have the superstars like Melbourne Storm do. They don't have that football nous, the knowledge that the Melbourne Storm did. So that's where I think he was, in a sense, a little overhyped at the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he was a turd covered in sprinkles, but he looked so good because he had so much around him that made him go from strength to strength.
Well, you had Cameron Smith and all that, and then Sua'ali'i on the other wing. I mean, but you had like all these
Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes. They knew how it worked.
The Melbourne Storm system.
Yeah,
you had all these generals. You know what I mean? And then and those two boys, the Fijian fella and and Josh, they would just finish it off.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I think, this season he's, in my mind, he's fairly rated. I don't think he's underrated. I think his defence could be a lot better. His ball reading, his play reading ability, when to shoot up out the line, when to not be so far in out of his wing inside where the centre should be, stuff like that. He's still only, quite a young fella. He's younger than us, I think. He's still, he's going to make it a long way, and he's, probably going to, be one of the best wingers of all time once he finishes his career. But at this point in time in the 2022 season, I do think he is fairly rated, because we saw so much of him being around so many good players. So I think his shining light is to be around these not so big superstars and get through the work that he should be getting through, that he was at the Storm.
Yep.
So what do you think, Ed?
Yeah, no, look, that's all fair enough. Like, I think if you'd asked me this question probably after round 5, I would have said he's the most overrated winger in the comp, but that's because he hadn't scored a try in the first 5 games. Since round 5, he scored 16 tries, so 16 tries in like 21, 22 games or something. It's not too bad. Like, not a lot of wingers are up at that level, especially for a team that's, sitting around 12th. So, I think I'd comfortably say he's correctly rated to slightly underrated for this season. But overall, I agree with Jordan. I think he's probably a correctly rated winger.
Yeah, which is fair enough. And I guess just in my opinion that he was around a lot of superstars, so that's what sort of made him look a lot better too.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, next question is from Selena, and this one's mainly for Trent, I think. It's, can the Cowboys win the grand final in 2022?
Oh, my heart says absolutely, of course. But I think they have the potential to do it, yes. Because they've got a well-balanced team. They don't rely on particular parts. Obviously, Valentine Holmes, different areas, other parts of the team, Tamalolo and all that. But, they're just well-balanced. The halves combination is going really well. Towns there. I think they can do it if they get into really good form the first finals game. Cowboys always finish well in the last 20 minutes. That's how the Cowboys seem to play. They don't start well. So yes, I think the Cowboys can go all the way. They have the ability to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair enough. I am not going to disagree, but I'm not going to fully agree either. We saw last night, I don't know if you watched the whole game, Aiden. I watched probably the majority part of the game. And if that was a full-strength Penrith squad, the Cowboys would have been dusted 30 or 40 points. They played well. And, yes, they did play essentially a reserve-grade Penrith side. I get that. But if they played a full-strength Penrith side yesterday, I think they would have been dusted a lot heavier than what people think. But, I'm also in the same mind of the Cowboys turn it up and get, some of them 50-50 calls their way and, have Lady Luck on their side a little bit.
That's right. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, I do see them, I guess, going all the way. They definitely have the talent on the park, and they've got, a champion halfback leading them around the park. Valentine Holmes again is a champion centre. Played with that Storm grand final game, I think, along with Chad Townsend when the Sharks won the grand final.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You've got players like Tommy Dearden that was in the winning Queensland. So, he's shown, he's not going to fold under pressure.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, that's right.
I won't put much pressure on him, but he is very solid, and he's come a long way, and he's proven. Look, I'm not having a vendetta against the Broncos or anything like that, but he's proven that wrong. He's worth the investment, and he's a great hard worker.
Yeah, that's right. They've got a fair bit of X factor around the park when you think of, got Drinky, at the back. You've got Val Holmes, which is lethal on one edge. You've got Kyle Felt on, the other. He's on his day. He won't drop a ball, and he'll fucking make sure he gets it over the line. He's proven that. But then you got to see who they're going to come up with on grand final day. Could potentially be the Eels. Could potentially be, the Sharkies again. Could be Penrith. So it all depends on the matchups. But on their day, if the Cowboys are on and they get a bit of Lady Luck on their side, yeah, they can go all the way. But there's a lot of factors at play and a lot of variables. So, I'm going to say it's 50-50. But on their day, definitely.
Yeah, look, I do agree in a way. I think it'll come down to next weekend's game with the Sharks. If the Cowboys can beat the Sharks at Shark Park, then I think the Cowboys are, a huge chance at winning the comp. But if they lose that game at Shark Park, I reckon that we might see them knocked out in the second round. because in the second round, the Cowboys would have to play either the Roosters or the Rabbitohs. And although, to be fair, that could be an easy game to win, because you think about it, the Rabbitohs and Roosters rip into each other. So they're going to be buggered after 2 games like that in a row. So it could work in Cowboys' favour, but I really think that to solidify their spot in a grand final, they really need to beat the Sharks. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. For, I guess, lack of better words, to stamp their authority on the competition, they need to go with the heavyweights and the front runners and go, right, and we're going to take you to the cleaners. Yeah,
no, I agree. And to sort of to touch on your stance about the Cowboys probably getting tailed up by a full strength Panthers side, I don't disagree, but I don't agree either. I think the Panthers full strength side beats that Cowboys team, but I don't know if it's a 13+ win. Jason Taumalolo only had 1 stint and they rested him, so that was a huge out for them. I think Val Holmes only played like 50 minutes, so to have both those guys off for a large period of the game makes a big difference as well. So I think they definitely used opportunities to rest players for next week even after playing them. I think it was a smart thing for them to do. So I don't disagree. I think a full strength Panthers side probably beats them by maybe 8 to 12 points, but I don't see it going 13+.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't even think of that. So, no, that's fair. I know Val Holmes got taken off on the 60th minute. But yeah, I didn't think Jason Taumalolo only had 1 stint. I thought he played again. But,
I wasn't too sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what the commentator said, is that he didn't return after his first stint. He played 29 minutes.
Yeah, righto.
So
that's not pretty bad.
Yeah. So I think the Cowboys probably compete with the team how they played last night, but I think they probably the Panthers would have run away with it at the end.
Yeah, they would have just took them down into the grind and just wore them out. And I can see that.
Yeah,
I just don't think the Cowboys are at their full battle right now. Before that first Origin, they that team, even the second Origin, around that period, they were just in such great form. I don't think they're able to get to that yet.
Get to that form again.
Yeah. I think they can do it, but I just don't think they're at that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
But it's all what can happen now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right.
What do you got next for us?
Hey?
What do you got next for us?
All right, the next one comes from Bean Slayer, and it is, will the Panthers versus Eels play in the grand final?
It said Panthers Eels grand final.
Mm.
No.
No.
Well, Panthers Eels grand final.
Yeah, why do you say no?
Well, because I think the Cowboys will make it.
yeah, that's fair.
Oh, but it's a possibility. You look at the top 8. It is somewhat unpredictable. You got teams like Panthers, obviously they've only had 3 losses or whatever. That don't quite me, but it's a possibility. It's a high possibility. And Eels are probably, when you think about it, Eels are probably the most informed team. Well, when you think about it right now, Eels are probably the most informed team right now.
I'd have to disagree. I'd say the Roosters.
I agree with Jordan.
Roosters,
then.
They're 6 on the trot.
Well, they both are in form.
Yeah. Okay, the Eels to me are very hot and cold. But in saying that, they could play each other in the grand final, the Eels and Panthers. It'll have to, whoever loses will have to then go on, beat the next team, and then they can play each other in the grand final. As, Queensland boy and all that sort of jazz, And, being a Raiders supporter, I want us to be in the grand final. And, for a bit of, lack of better words, sibling rivalry, we can't have 3 teams in the grand final, can we? So, I'd love to see a Raiders versus Cowboys or Raiders versus Bunnies grand final. Just to, for us boys to sling a bit of shit on each other,
Yeah.
So, that's, thinking with my heart. With my head, I dare say, that is every possibility. Don't want it to end up like that, but it's definitely a possibility. What do you reckon, Ed?
Yeah, look, I see a lot of people say, it's very unlikely because teams that meet in the first week of finals don't normally end up meeting in the last round. But it happened last year. The Bunnies beat Panthers in week 1 of the finals, went to the prelims, and then ended up playing them in the grand final again. So it's very possible. While it's probably unlikely, it's still very possible. And both teams, they're red hot. So I think another team that we're kind of sleeping on a bit is Cronulla, because they're 5 on the trot at the moment. So they're another team in really good form as well. So look, I'm very excited about this final series. I think it's going to be one of the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It's such a tight, between that top 8 position, it's such a tight competition. And anyone on their day that turns up has the possibility to go all the way.
Because you're thinking Storm would make top 4, you're thinking Roosters could possibly make top 4, throughout the season. Eels, you know what I mean? There's Eels have, but So there are teams that really were predicted they could have made the top 4, but haven't. But other teams have stepped up, so that makes it real more interesting.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Johnny, and it's: will the Rabbitohs beat the Roosters next weekend?
What do you reckon, Trent?
Yes, they'll learn from them. They'll learn from last week. Well, this game. Yeah, this week. And they'll put a big. They'll go through the video. They'll do all that. Dimitri will get the boys ready. Rabbitohs will win a very close game.
Yeah, I'm with you, Trent. I think with have you heard on Cam Murray, Aiden? Is he going to be back or not?
So at this stage, he's extremely likely to play. He woke up the next morning. They did, they did their tests and stuff, and he's basically passed through the first test with flying colours. So I'd say there's, at this stage, probably a 95% chance he plays.
Yeah, righto. Well, with him, Campbell Graham coming back this week, yeah?
Yeah, so we welcome back Campbell Graham, probably Isaac Thompson as well, one of our big wingers. Cookie returns from his couple of weeks off with COVID. And, Cameron Murray back too. So, very, very good signs for us, that's for sure.
Yeah, with all that, I dare say the Rabbitohs get up over the Roosters. And, like I said before, with Joey Manu out, for me, it's like Latrell being out for the Bunnies, He just brings that impact. So I'm not going to say 13 plus, but definitely Bunnies over the Roosters next week.
All right, I agree, and I said it earlier in the week to a few of the boys at work. I said that I think the team that lost on Friday night wins next week. So I was assuming the Rabbits would get up last week and the Roosters would get up next week, but now I've flipped it. I 100% think the Bunnies can win it. Normally I'll be like, I'll tip it with my heart, tip the Bunnies. But I'm tipping heart and head this week because I really do believe, putting all bias aside, I think everything's sort of flowing in our favour now. We're going to receive 4 huge players back. Roosters have Joey Manu out. We don't know if it's confirmed that Victor Radley will play, although I'd say he probably will. So I think Lindsay Collins is still out for like another 2 or 3 weeks as well. So, everything's going in South's favour, and I do think the Rabbitohs, I think they're actually they're not favourites to win next week. I think they will.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's nothing out there that sort of stood out was like, oh, this cunt's biased, but this person's biased, I mean. That to me makes sense.
Roosters are actually quite heavily favoured. It's $1.55 to $2.45.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, next Sunday, 4 o'clock, that game is too, so very excited for that.
Just on that too, wait until the team lists are released and then check the scores. The
odds, yeah.
But yeah, what do you got next?
All right, next question comes from 676 Showtime, and it's: will Tonga make it to the Rugby League World Cup finals? So he's not saying they're not saying winning it. They're just saying will they make it to the finals?
I don't think the final, like as in like the semi-final, the semi-final.
The final series, or make it to like the grand final?
I think it's the final series, but it could be let's just answer both.
So if it's the final series, yes. If it's the grand final, no.
Okay.
I personally think the grand final will be between Australia and New Zealand, and New Zealand will probably beat Australia.
I don't disagree with that.
If they keep the same Māori squad that they did when they had the Indigenous All-Stars versus the Māori All-Stars, if they keep that squad, then yeah, it's very dangerous for an Australian and any team in that pool, respectively. I think the New Zealanders will come up trumps there.
These Tongan and Samoan teams and all that, they're now stacked up with a lot of players. At the moment, like a lot of these players, they really want to play for their homeland and all that. But how is England going at the moment? Like in the Super League, it might be Australia versus either be Australia versus England or Australia versus New Zealand.
Yeah, look, it's over in England too, so technically England have
Australia versus England. I'll go with Australia versus England.
Yeah.
And New Zealand will get knocked out in the semi-final.
Yeah, right. I tend to agree with Jordan. I think Australia and New Zealand will probably be there, and I think that New Zealand have such a strong team. Their spine is really good, especially with Dylan Brown and Jerome Hughes in the halves. Like, both those players are arguably two of the best in their position this year. So I just think, the Kiwis are probably going to win it all. I wouldn't, obviously I think Tonga will make the semis. I think they will. They'll contest for a final, like a grand final, that's for sure. But I wouldn't rule out Samoa either. Like the Samoan boys, they're looking really good this year as well. So, yeah, look, I think this is probably going to be one of the most entertaining World Cups we're ever going to see, although it's probably going to get better every year now because of how many of the players represent other nations. But as a person with Irish heritage, I'm very excited that Luke Keary is going to play for Ireland, so I'm happy about that one.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember the exact statistic. I think it's something like 67% or something, or maybe close to the 80s, that are of Polynesian heritage that play in the NRL.
Yeah.
Which, in my mind, it makes sense because NRL is predominantly on the east coast of Australia, where it's played and supported, and where all the Polynesian countries east of Australia. So, it does make sense that there are a lot of in there. And now with all the new blood coming through and, all that sort of stuff, it is going to make for one hell of a World Cup. It really is.
Yeah, no.
How's Papua New Guinea looking?
I think they're looking all right. They're obviously not as strong as most of the nations, but I think they might cause a few upsets.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they are big boys.
No, definitely.
and well, France is the other nation. But yeah, obviously
Yeah,
Right.
what else?
Next question is from Jason, and he says, "What's your top 8 for next year?" So this one's going to be a bit difficult because it's so early to tell. We haven't seen an off season yet or anything like that. I, for one, will be giving my official top 8 predictions later on in the year or early next year. But I'm happy to give an answer. So Trent, if you want to kick us off with your top 8 for next year.
Yeah, sure. I think. Well, I think Panthers. I think Panthers, Storm, Cowboys, Sharks, Eels. It's hard. Okay, so I think Panthers will still be there. So I think the next spot will be the Sharks. The Sharks will be at number 2.
It doesn't have to be in a specific order, Trent, just your top 8.
Okay. Well, I think, Panthers, Cowboys, Sharks, Eels will be there. I think Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs will be there. I don't think I'll take the Roosters out, and I'll put the Bulldogs in there. I think the Bulldogs under Sua'ali'i, under Matt Burton, it's hard to tell right now because obviously we're still in the season, but I think the Bulldogs will have a rise, with Matt Burton and all that, young up and coming side. Lots to prove. I think they'll make it.
Yeah, look, that's not a bad top 8 there, Trent. Jordan, what about you? What do you reckon?
Personally, I think it's going to be mainly unchanged from this year. The only change I think might happen is with the number 8 position. Whether it's, the Raiders again slot in that top 8 spot, or, if Manly, I don't know who their halfback's going to be next year. Their 5'8" is going to be back next year. Bulldogs have every chance. You can't rule out the Broncos. They're nipping at the heels at the top 8 as well. I dare say 1 to 6 is fairly cemented between the teams in 1 to 6. Obviously no order, but I think that top 6 is going to be the same. Just that 7 and 8 spot. You got players coming back off long-term injuries next year. Manly could potentially make a play for the top 8. Same with the Bulldogs and Broncos, so I'm not going to rule them out. And obviously the Raiders. So you've got that 4 to 5 teams nipping at that 7 and 8 spot, and each one of them have got the chance to make it. So that's mine. I reckon it's going to say roughly the same. I don't think too much is going to change.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. For me, I think the top 4 next year, again in no particular order, will be around like Panthers, Cowboys, Sharks, and Roosters. For me, it'll be the top 4. I think Storm and Souths will wrap up the top 6. I think, and then the rest, I don't know yet who I'd pick for 7th and 8th. Probably at the moment you'd be looking at Eels and Raiders, but with the Eels losing Reid Marnie, that's a pretty big loss for them. Isaiah Papali'i's another big loss, so I think that will really hurt them because Reid Marnie's arguably been one of their better players. So losing him, I think, is detrimental, and I don't think they've found a replacement at dummy half. So I don't know what they're going to look at for their dummy half next year. So I think that's going to be a huge loss for them. So I'd say that they'd probably be one of my first teams to fall out of the 8. In terms of a team coming in, I think you're probably looking at about 5 teams to come into the 8 next year that, you know, could potentially fight for an 8th spot. And that'll be the Broncos, Manly, St. George, Bulldogs. Actually, probably 4, but I'd say the Raiders, you know, definitely should be pretty close to locking in an 8th spot again. So I think if I'm going to name 2 teams to fall out and 2 teams to come in, I'd probably say Parramatta and Raiders fall out, and 2 teams to come in, I'd say the Broncos would be 1, and I'd say the Bulldogs could be a smoky to make the 8 as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you know, between, say, the bottom 4 teams, I don't think there's going to be too much drastic improvement.
Yeah.
So, you know, could look, you asked me in 365 days, you know, we could, you know, review this 1 year later and see what the top 8 looks like. But yeah, I just don't disagree with that.
Another team, and I didn't even think about this, but if the Redcliffe Dolphins sign a marquee, or the NRL Dolphins sign a marquee player, they could be in the conversation for a top 8 spot as well.
My sincere apologies. I forgot about the Dolphins.
Yeah, so did I. I don't see them making the 8 though. I reckon they'll have a couple of good wins under their belt. But I think they'll sit in the middle of the pack in about that 10th to 12th spot, I think.
Like NRL 360, Paul Kent, all that. They say, you know, Dolphins, you know, won't do it because they haven't got a marquee. Nah, they're coached by Wayne Bennett. They've got some veterans and all that. You know, they'll be anywhere between 7th, 8th to 10th, you know. They'll be around the mix. Whether they make it, I don't know. But, you know, they won't be bad. No. I'll tell you that.
Well, you know, let's say they do make the 8. Does that, I know we're going off topic, but does that solidify Wayne Bennett as one of the best coaches of all time?
100%.
Wayne Bennett was one of the best all-time coaches probably 15 years ago. You know what I mean? He's, you know what I mean? I think his legacy's been solidified.
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's just probably like with the other like great coaches of the 80s and 70s and all that. Yeah.
You know, you talk about the Dolphins not having a marquee signing, but I tell you what, I believe that Sean O'Sullivan gets a lot of disrespect because he's a very good player, a really good player, and to have some of the experience that he will around him, you know, the forwards that they've brought over from Melbourne, they brought a couple of Cowboys forwards over, Marky Nichols, to have that quality of a forward pack behind their half, I think he'll do really well with the Dolphins.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Like, you know, watched Sean O'Sullivan play last night. He was halfback for Panthers last night, wasn't he?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, so watched him play last night. He didn't have a terrible game. You know, some of his kick choices were a bit, how you going?
Yep.
But apart from that, he's you know, quite a solid young player.
No, definitely. And he's done a role when Jerome Luai was out. He filled in with Nathan Cleary, and vice versa when Cleary was out. He filled in with Jerome Luai. So, you know, I do believe that they've got a good signing in Sean O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
All right, final question, and it's kind of one we've basically already answered, but this comes from Wakanda Forever, and it's what are the chances of the Bulldogs making the top 8 next year?
Do you want like a percentage-based odd, or?
Oh, look, just you know, just say where you think how close you think they'll get. If you think they'll be crazy as it sounds, if Trent thinks they'll be a top 4 side, or if Jordan thinks they'll get the spoon, like where do you guys think they'll realistically finish?
I think they might hit the 8th spot. If not, it'll be 9th or 10th.
I agree with Jordan.
Yeah, look, I think we're all pretty much agreed on that one. I think it's hard to say because we've seen. I'd say they're arguably playing close to top 8 footy under Mick Potter, but it'll be tough to see where they're at under Cameron Ciraldo. We don't know what he's like as a head coach yet. And a lot of the players have a lot of respect for Mick Potter. So, will he lose some of the playing group if, he changes up too much? So there's a lot of ifs and buts about the Bulldog season next year. I think if all goes well, I'd agree. I'd say they'd be about that 8th spot, but it all depends on how the chemistry is next year. I think that's the biggest thing for the Bulldogs is how well their chemistry is.
So Ciraldo was highly rated by the Panthers. He's been doing this whole assistant coach thing for quite a long period of time. Like I think in his rugby league career, he retired very, very early. So he's been doing this coaching thing since he's like 20, so like 20s sort of thing. So he is a career coach. Like Ciraldo is a career coach. In my opinion, I think he'll do well. I rate him. They're not going to win the premiership in top 4 in the first year, but I think they're. You never know. It's hard to predict, but they'll do well with him, with Matt Burton, etc. They'll do better than Newcastle Knights. I'll give you that.
Sorry, Adrian.
sorry, Adrian.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. That where you were thinking, Aiden?
Yeah, I agree. Like, we know that Ciraldo's an amazing assistant coach. And to be honest, the Bulldogs, they're bringing in, nothing's officially confirmed, but it's more than likely that they've 100% signed Viliami Kikau and Reid Marnie. So, they're huge signings for them. They haven't lost too many key players. So they're basically keeping their squad at the end of the season together next year, and they're playing quality football with that team. So to add those 2 players, I think is going to be brilliant. And you've also got to look at Viliami Kikau's had experience playing with Matt Burton before. So I think the Bulldogs are in a good position going into next season. So I think they're definitely a chance at a top 8 spot. I don't think it'll be much higher than 8th, though.
Yeah, I don't think any of us disagree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, so did you boys have anything else to say on that one? Or
No, that's it.
All right, well, I think that's pretty much it. That's all the questions we have. Is there anything you guys want to add to wrap it up, or...?
That's it. Oh, maybe a little bit about the Redcliffe Dolphins if you want.
Mate, yeah. Obviously, we don't want it to go on for too long, Trent, but if you've got something to say about it, definitely voice your opinion.
I think they'll do well. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Wayne Bennett,
Yeah, you go.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to ride them off. As they're a brand new team. They can't, win shit or whatever. You just got to look at some of the some of the younger teams in the comp. The Titans. Arguably, the Bunnies are the youngest team in the comp. So they've done well there.
Fuck off.
But yeah, the Titans, they've made the top 8 last year, I think. First time in a while. I think the time before that was like 2018, 2019 when Jared Hayne come back, and I think that just derailed their system. But yeah, not touching on that, but yeah, I think the Dolphins have the right systems, I guess, in place at the moment from what I've seen and from what I've heard. I do think they'll go. I don't think they'll get the spoon next year. but they look that, as anything, they might make the top 8. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. One thing I would like to touch on before we close it off is some news that came out this morning or yesterday. I can't remember when it exactly came out. But Joseph Sua'ali'i's, I think it's his management have come out and said that they won't be re-signing with the Roosters if James Tedesco is there, and they recommend that James Tedesco gets released from the Roosters.
Oh, fucking...
Oh, what the fuck? Excuse my language, but...
You got to be kidding me, right?
No, I'm dead set. All right, Sydney Morning. I don't think I'll be able to... Oh, here we go. So, it says, the fuse has been lit for this week's Roosters-Rabbitohs return bout with the man who helped shape Joseph Sua'ali'i's career, saying that unless James Tedesco leaves the Roosters, the Bondi club will lose Sua'ali'i.
You know what? I'd much prefer in my team to have James Tedesco than Joseph Sua'ali'i.
And you know what? In the media this week, we've seen so many idiots like Paul Kent bring up about how stupid of a move it was of the South Sydney Rabbitohs to get rid of Sua'ali'i. As a Rabbitohs fan, I'm glad he's gone. We don't have that drama at our club. He could be the next big thing. You may never see a player like him again. But I don't care if his management and his mentors are going to act like this. I'm glad he's not a part of our club.
Yeah, like when he had that ridiculous offer, and don't quote me, you'll probably know, but I think it was something like the 5 to 750k he wanted to sign for his debut year, and the Rabbitohs, and I think it was Wayne Bennett, went, yeah, no, son, you're not that good, you're not that. Roosters said, well, come over here, son. We'll look after you. We've got a salary cap sombrero. So, he went over there. And, yes, he's showing glimpses of being, a fantastic football player, but he's not worth the money that he wants. You could buy, other quality halves that are so much better than him at this stage for what he wants.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's the whole thing with the Wayne Bennett situation was that there was so many clauses. It was like, I think it was some absurd amount, like 100 clauses in the contract. Like if another NRL club was to give him a higher offer, he could break his contract, or if he wanted to go to rugby at the end of the season, he could break his contract. There was just so many stupid clauses that would go against the club. And I for one, I know there's a lot of people in the media that are saying the Rabbitohs made the wrong decision. I disagree very much so. I think the Rabbitohs made 100% the right decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. After that happened, which I think was last year, it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth with him. So whenever I've seen him get the ball, I've judged him quite harshly to what I've been judging, other people.
Yeah.
Like if he drops the ball or whatever, I sort of laugh and be like, haha, suck crap, As if it's like Jeremiah Nanai or someone like that on their debut year, or, Reece Walsh, whoever, I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Sort of, with that whole crap that went on with him and South, just left a bad taste in my mouth. And, if he wants to piss off to Union, rugby, let him go.
Yeah,
we don't need that. We don't need that in our game.
I agree.
You think he will go rugby union?
I don't know.
I personally don't think he's cut out for it. I really don't. He's tall and athletic, but he doesn't have the size about him for rugby union.
Yeah, because rugby union, it's like ongoing combat, if that makes sense. It's like the continued, you know what I mean, players going over you, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Look, how old is he? Only 18, 19? Look, I've got nothing against him, but I've never met him. You know what I mean? He seems like, every time he talks, he seems decent. He'd never said anything flamboyant. He seems like a good kid, all that sort of stuff. But just the way his management or the whole South, the Roosters thing, that was just, you know, it's highly ridiculous for a 17-year-old to get that amount of money. You know, I'm not talking out of jealousy or anything, but I think it doesn't matter how good you are. I think you still got to work your way up to a certain level. You know, he's not he just come in. You know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. You know, for lack of better words, you got to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah, you got to climb the ladder first. You know. Yeah,
that's right. And you know, he's come into a very successful team at the Roosters, and to me, it's like Josh Addo-Carr. Put Joseph Sua'ali'i in with the West Tigers or Newcastle Knights or the Bulldogs. Put him in a team where he's not surrounded by superstars and see how well he goes. You know, he'll either sink or swim there. And if he does prove he's the real deal with one of the clubs that he's not surrounded by superstars, then you go, yeah, okay, I rated him harshly. But yeah, when you're surrounded by, you know, a club of superstars, you make yourself look better.
Of course.
And I tell you what, Trent Robinson will 100% pick James Tedesco every day. Because if he doesn't, then you're losing arguably the best fullback in the game at the moment.
Okay, well, and look, we're going to have to wrap this up soon because it's been going on for a long time. But the last thing I want to touch on with that, you know, Sua'ali'i Tedesco situation is you think about it, if he's got all these clauses in his contract to say he can get out at any time, and the Roosters go, righto, well, we want to keep you here, so James, unfortunately, we have to release you. What if 6 months down the track, Sua'ali'i goes, you know what, I want Manu gone? And then you're in a bigger situation.
Exactly. What if you let James Tedesco go, and then 6 months later, Joseph Sua'ali'i goes, I want to play for the Kangaroos or play for the Reds.
Yep.
You've just lost James Tedesco and Joseph.
Yeah.
In the space of 6 months, like you're taking such a gamble on that kid in the beginning. If you're this good, why do you need all the clauses in your contract?
Exactly. That's right.
They're just trying to dictate what they want, but like, yeah, he's still got a process to get, you know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All right, well, I think we're going to wrap it up if that's all you boys want to add on at the end there.
Good, yep.
Yeah, no, that's it, bro.
No worries, all good. Well, thank you both for joining today, Jordan. I hope we have you more on the channel later on down the track, more reactions or something.
Yeah, no, definitely. Next time I do a trip down there, we'll have to tee it up and, you know, punch out a couple of video reactions and that.
Sounds good. And Trent, thank you for making your debut on my channel. I really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah.
Not a problem. Yeah. Well, that is going to wrap it up from us, guys. Thank you all so much for submitting your questions and tuning in today. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.